everybody, and welcome back to the Three in the Key podcast. I'm your host for today. I'm Ben, and I'm joined here by Andrew. Say what's up, Andrew.
How's it going, everyone?
So for today, there's a little complication. Arnav, unfortunately, will not be able to join us just due to scheduling. Just wasn't able to.
If you want to blame that on someone, it's entirely Arnav's fault because he didn't tell us anything. So blame it on Arnav.
Anyways, we would like to apologize just because we've been really busy in the last little bit. Haven't been able to get too many uploads up, but we're back with our Saturday upload. Even though it's Sunday, we're just not going to mention that. But so today we will be doing our second part of NBA Would You Rather. It's going to be a shorter episode today because there's only the two of us, and it's hard to put together too many questions. But without further ado, I think we should get into it. Unless Andrew, you have anything to say?
Not really. Yeah, we're gonna have so we do actually have a video plan for Wednesday. We're gonna have our first mock draft come out.
Yes, very exciting.
I don't really have much to say about the lottery. I mean, good for you Bulls fans. I don't think the Hornets have any fans, so I don't want to say good for you Hornets fans if they don't exist. But if they do exist, good for you Hornets fans. And the Timberwolves, obviously, but they had the best. Technically had the best chance, as well as the Warriors. So that doesn't really surprise me. But yeah, that's really about it. I don't think this was a very exciting lottery. Obviously, the Knicks did it to themselves again, and the Hornets actually, to me, might be in the best spot. Might be in the best position because I don't think LaMelo or Anthony Edwards are good picks. Actually, Anthony Edwards might be for the Timberwolves, but I don't think LaMelo is a good fit for either of those teams. That's just my opinion, though.
Mm-hmm.
If there were 3 Denny Avdijas in this draft, then I would say those 3 teams Actually, I think Denny could go to any of the first 7 teams in the lottery because he just fits so well in all those teams. Yeah. But anyway, enough about the lottery.
Talk about that on Wednesday.
We've got to get to Would You Rather.
So we're just gonna take some turns, throw out questions, have some discussion, and yeah.
Okay.
So I'll start. So some of these questions are from the last one. Some of them are taken off of Instagram. So thank you to everybody who submitted some. So for my first one, would you rather, coming in from Anonymous? Thank you, Anonymous. You requested that your name wouldn't be shown, which is totally fine. So would you rather have Russell Westbrook or Damian Lillard?
Okay, well, right now I'm taking. Well, here's the problem. I think Russ is. I saw this Rusty Buckets video that said Russ is the worst superstar of all time, which is kind of true because, I think Russ is a top 30 player ever, but the problem is he is just hindered more than anyone else in history by his stupid decisions he makes. Very rarely do you see a superstar player that just has so much potential, but just is so devastatingly hindered by their inability to make the right decisions. And I think Damian Lillard is a better player to build around just because, first of all, he's a better shooter, which for the modern game is better. And if you're going to build around Russ, you really have to build around Russ. You have to build around a lot of his limitations. He's not a great shooter. And he's not a perfect decision maker. So you probably want a secondary playmaker. You want lots of floor spacing. And the problem is, since he always wants to get to the rim, you can't really have – because this is why the Rockets had to trade Capella because, first of all, they weren't running pick and roll. But also because every time Russ got to the rim, he was just met at the rim by Clint Capella's man. So you going small is actually really good with Russ. Unless he's not the best player on your team.
Yeah.
But if he is the best player on your team, you're either not going to win very much or you're going to have to build heavily around him. And I don't think the feeling of a Russ-led team is good enough to win a championship. So I would build around Damian Lillard. Because I think the feeling of a Damian Lillard built around team, even if they're both in their primes, is good enough to win a championship.
Yeah, I agree. Dame's been playing pretty well in the bubble, maybe not in the last couple playoff games, but at the end of the day, he's the better player. Much more
right now, obviously.
Yeah,
However, I think what the Rockets have done, building this team around Russ's abilities, but also in a way that doesn't completely hinder them because they also have Harden and they've just done it so well, that's actually a great example of how small ball can work now.
Hmm.
In
So we're both going with the Russ. Do you want to go to your first question?
All right. Yeah. So, would you rather be an NBA player that can't dunk? So, like I say, Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas can probably dunk, but he couldn't do
Fred
it.
VanVleet.
Fred VanVleet, that's a good example. Or an
He
NBA
hasn't
player
dunked.
that just can't shoot threes. So, like Hassan Whiteside or Tristan Thompson level of can't shoot.
I would rather not be able to dunk. I think that with the era that we're in currently, the modern game, so many threes are shot. I'm pretty sure in almost every game except for game 2 in the Raptors net series, over 80 3-pointers were attempted. I'm sure more in the other series like the Blazers and the
Ridiculous.
Lakers, which is crazy because just teams got to keep being able to shoot. And unless you're really a big man, if you don't have a 3-point game, you're not making it into the league. I don't think
Yeah.
dunking's that important. If you have an open layup, you can lay it in. So yeah, it's a no-brainer for me, and I'm gonna go with the three dunk.
By the end of the decade, I believe that if every team will be able to put out a 5-man lineup of all shooters,
Yeah,
all players that can shoot. So I
a
actually
bunch
think,
of teams can now. Sorry to interrupt you, but a bunch of teams.
yeah, that's a fair
already-
point. Like the Rockets have been doing that. How they've been doing that all year. Once they traded away Capella, they did the 4 out of their 5 guys, and with Russ out, they now have to have
Yeah.
5 shooters out there.
Even teams like the Raptors, like you think about the roster, all those guys can shoot threes that actually play. Like I guess there
Yeah.
might be guys at the end of the bench that might not
Like
be as good,
Marc Gasol isn't a great 3-point shooter,
but he can shoot
can't
the
hit
ball.
them. Pascal isn't an amazing shooter, but he can hit them.
Yeah.
Fred VanVleet is a really good shooter.
Mhm.
Norman Powell's a good shooter. Kyle Lowry's a really good shooter.
Yeah.
Serge Ibaka's a good shooter.
So you're gonna go with 3-point dunk.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 3-point shooting, but it would be really upsetting to see an NBA player that can't dunk.
Yeah. Okay. For my second question, so you're the GM of the Sixers, and obviously, right, they're 1 o'clock
okay.
Eastern today, which is actually right now about to tip off. Who are you trading? Joel
Yeah,
Embiid,
would I rather?
Ben Simmons.
Okay, so basically, would I rather build around Ben or Embiid?
Well, no, you're the Sixers. Who are you gonna trade? And then yeah, basically.
Here's my opinion on both of them. So I think Ben Simmons will be one of the exceptions of players in the next decade that can't shoot, but will still be perfectly viable because he's just so dominant in other facets of the game. And I don't think it's out of the question that eventually he'll be able to shoot at an average rate. Like, there's no reason he can't. I think it's all in his head at this point, which I think can be fixed.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have Joel Embiid, who, in my opinion, some people think he's a relic of the past, and because of that, he's not viable. But I actually think he's so good at what he does in the post that he is the last instance of a player in the modern game that is a dominant post player. Like, after Embiid, there's going to be no one else that this will be acceptable with. Like, he is the last guy. He is the last. Like, this is a dying breed. Like, guys like Andre Drummond, Hassan Whiteside, Tristan Thompson, they're not going to be acceptable. But I think Embiid will be because he's so good. But it won't happen again. Like there will be no more Joel Embiids after Joel Embiid. He's the last one. And then I think traditional big men will basically go extinct. Like, I mean, guys like Bam Adebayo are outliers because he's an amazing passer and he's also just an incredible defender. But like Embiid, I think Embiid's he's a relic of the past. But I think Ben Simmons is just gonna be better because Ben Simmons has a much higher ceiling at this point. I think Joel Embiid I think that 27-12 season is near his ceiling, but I don't think we're even close to Ben Simmons' ceiling.
Yeah. So for me, I don't really know. I don't love Joel Embiid, like, personally. I think he's a little bit of a baby, and if he's watching this, then I'm kind of scared, but still gonna call him a baby. I would probably trade him. I think that they could get good assets back for trading him. I don't really know.
There are a lot of teams that would like him.
So, yeah, I think they could get some good assets back and build around Ben Simmons. So, for me, it's trading Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I agree. Even though I think Embiid is the better player right now, probably mostly because Ben Simmons has been pretty stagnant for 3 years. He's become a better defender, but that's really about it. But I feel like that's from a variety of different circumstances. And I think Joel won't. I don't think Joel will be better when it's all said and done.
Yeah. So
So,
before you move on to your question, I forgot to touch on this, but I'd just like to congratulate Coach Nick Nurse on becoming the NBA Coach of
oh
the Year
shoot,
for the
yeah,
2019-2020 season.
yeah. I actually had. I think we all picked him,
Yeah, we did.
right?
Yeah, in our award predictions
Yeah,
episode.
I don't understand why so many people were talking about Billy Donovan because I thought that was kind of stupid, but oh well.
I mean, they're a team like us, except we're just better, I would think.
Yeah, and
Like in
I
the
feel
way
like
that
people
they
shouldn't
were
have been like,
counting
oh,
out.
Chris Paul is washed. Shea was going to be better. Steven Adams is going to have a bigger role. Gallo's a really good player. Like that was a good team heading into the season. Like that team was not wash.
No.
So
So-
yeah, I think Nurse is a better coach. I think Nurse was the right pick.
Yeah.
I think he earned it. So anyway, moving on to my next question. Would you rather have to fight Ben Wallace or Ron Artest in their primes?
I don't want to fight either of them, but I mean, Malice at the Palace.
Shout out Malice at the Palace.
Obviously, Ron Artest or Metal World Peace is more dominant in that fight, I would guess, in terms of.
Yeah, no, Ron Artest was nuts.
But I feel like I wouldn't. I feel like I'd rather fight him.
Ron Artest?
No, I'd rather fight Ron Artest than Ben Wallace, just because he's so big.
I'm gonna
So
disagree
strong.
because
I gotta go. Like
at
he's
the time, I think Ron Artest was pretty much the strongest player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I actually think he was stronger than Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace is just bigger. So I think
I think Ben Wallace would be scarier.
Here's the one advantage you have with Ben Wallace, right? Like if you can jump on his back,
Yeah, I can't believe
you can pull on his afro, right? Which is a huge disadvantage for him. As long as he's not rocking those cornrows and he's got the afro going, then that's a huge disadvantage for him. Like, I mean, it's really not that big of a disadvantage because he's still 7 feet tall. But like Ron Artest doesn't have is bald, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's really nowhere for you to latch onto him, right? He doesn't have any. Yeah, you can't latch onto him, but you can latch onto Ben Wallace's head, and I don't know, just corral around him from there.
Yeah, I think we should pass on this question. I'm gonna. I mean, I as I said, I would really not want to fight all of them. Yeah. All right. So I'll head to my third question. Similar to my first question in last episode, would you rather be the Mavericks or the Nuggets in terms of winning championships in the next 5 years?
Ooh, shoot, that's interesting.
I can start with my point. I'm going to pick the Mavericks, and I'm just going to go out and say that they have Luka Doncic. You watch Luka Doncic play. He's playing against the two best defenders in the NBA right now. And this guy is
nuts right now.
He is like effortlessly getting to the basket, effortlessly getting open shots. This guy is going to be something special. He's going to be a generational player. I have the Mavericks. I don't even think it's a question.
I think Luka's probably going to be an MVP candidate by next year. He's that good. But I think there are two things that have to happen. First of all, I think the Mavericks have to trade for Jrue Holiday. Like, I thought about it the other day, and they need to trade for a Jrue Holiday type because the Mavericks are lacking in defense and a secondary playmaker. Because the biggest hole with Luka's game is that Luka basically has to do everything right now. Like, as far as ball handling and playmaking goes, he has to do everything because the two other playmakers on this team are Jalen Brunson and DeLon Wright, who are both okay playmakers, but that's it. That's where it ends. And then it's just Luka who has to do everything, which obviously is going to put strain on his body, and it would be helpful if he had someone like Jrue Holiday, who's one really, really good playmaker. He's solid scorer, and he's a very good defender, which are all areas the Mavericks could improve in other than scoring. They already have a really good offense. But I think Luka just needs to be I hit all his almost none of his threes are assisted. And his usage rate is so high. So I think someone that can take off.
So when he's off the court, like they're much less efficient and.
Oh yeah, definitely
dominant. Yeah.
So I think a Drew Holiday would be really good. I wonder because Lonzo Ball's gonna be a free agent in 2017 or in 2021, right?
Yeah, but he'll be. They could.
Oh, he's gonna be restricted.
Yeah, they can match the offer. So he'll probably.
De'Aaron Fox as well. Oh, Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio's a good asset. So basically, I think the Mavericks just need a secondary playmaker so that they can take some stress off Luka. But if they get that, then I don't think Ricky Rubio's the right player. I said Drew Holiday because I think he brings really better defense than Rubio. He's a better scorer. And I don't know. I think Rubio's really too one-dimensional. I think once you get a Drew Holiday caliber player, then that brings this team from a really good team. I think they're better than the 7th seed. The West is just so damn stacked, and Luka was hurt for a fair bit of the year. But I think they're better than the 7th seed, and I think that takes them from close to borderline contenders to now legitimate contenders. Because obviously, I think Luka and KP are both going to be better next year. Because obviously, they're both going to get better because natural progression. They're young, and I think this year was a year where they just had to figure it out, right? They didn't really play all that well together because they didn't. This was the first time because Kristaps was out when he first got to Dallas. So I think next year this team is probably. I think I could see them being as high as a 2 seed. I'm not even kidding.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the Nuggets, who are interesting because they obviously have. They have a lot of really good young pieces. They have obviously Nikola Jokic, who I don't think is going to be a feasible player eventually because, yeah, he's a really good offensive player, but his defense is very, very bad. So I think eventually you'll be able to find Jokic types that can pass like he does, just with better defense. I think that will exist at some point, and he will eventually become a relic of the past, but that's 15 years down the line.
Mm-hmm.
They have Jokic. And to me, it's all about Jamal Murray and his development. I'm not too concerned about Michael Porter. I actually think people are sleeping on him because every time I watch him, it's just his offense is so fluid and it comes so easily to him.
Yeah.
And there's no reason he can't be a better defender. I think if he can at least be an average defender, that will be fine. But Murray, the problem with him is he's been stagnant for 2 years now. He has to improve for this Nuggets ceiling to be higher, right? If he can be a 22-point per game scorer next year and he can steadily improve that over the next 3 years, then first of all, he'll be worth the Supermax which has kind of tied them up in this core, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. And second of all, it'll bring this team from, again, borderline contender to actual contender.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how they're gonna bounce back against the Jazz.
I'm a little concerned because they got plowed twice now, and there's really no reason why they can't win this series. And if they don't, I will be pretty disappointed. But I think they'll win today. I think they will.
Yep.
I still pick them in the series. I'm now going to say the 7-game series. Definitely think I had them in 6 before, but I think it's going to be 7 now.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Jazz have played much better. And while yes, they've had to play a lot of these bench guys, it's not like those bench guys have been horrendous. Jordan Clarkson has played much better. And Mike Conley obviously came back and played well. Donovan Mitchell has been amazing. Rudy Gobert's been good. They've been firing on all cylinders even without Bogdanovich, and I think they could win the series, but I still pick the Nuggets just because the Nuggets are a better team.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, back to the question with the Nuggets and the Mavericks.
I'm picking Mavericks.
In the next 5 years, I think I'm going to pick the Mavericks, but I think by the end of the decade, the Nuggets will have a championship. I think, but because the between those two teams, the Mavericks have the best player because Luka is going to be better than Michael Porter Jr. and Bol Bol, even if they reach
Well,
their.
I mean, Nikola Jokic. I know he's older than Luka.
Nikola Jokic is probably better than is. I would say Luka. Oh, that's actually a good debate. Is Luka better than Nikola Jokic? But regardless, Luka will be better by next year. I guarantee that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I think this Mavericks team just needs one more piece. Obviously, again, I suggested Drew Holiday, but I guess they could. Do they have a pick in this year's draft, or does it belong?
I'm not sure.
It
I think
belongs to the Knicks, right?
yeah,
Yeah, from the KP trade. So they don't have a pick in this year's draft. But that's not really a problem. I don't think a young player is going to fix this. I guess they could go after maybe Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe would be good for this team. Obviously, he's bad in the playoffs, but like someone along those lines.
Yeah. So you want to move on to your next question?
Sure. So let me just pull it up. All right. So would you rather get postered horribly by someone like, say, Zach LaVine or Nate Robinson, or would you rather have your ankles snatched away from your body and have the soul ripped out of your body by Kyrie Irving or James Harden?
I actually have the same question, but I'm not the exact same question, but a very similar question. So I'm just gonna skip that. But yeah, I'd rather get dunked on because it's not like getting dunked on is all that your fault. It's more the other person's athletic ability.
Yeah.
Because on the ankle breakers, it shows that you're not playing good defense or.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Having to guard James Harden, like this brings up the question: would you rather have to guard like James Harden or like?
No, but wait. Yeah, but if you remember that, like James Harden ankle breaker and Wesley Johnson, like it's still to this day, showed on like Instagram, and it's still all over the internet because it's so crazy. But like, yeah, really crazy posters. But when you see a really crazy poster, right, you don't go like, oh, you usually like look at the player, right? Yeah, that did it and be like, oh, that's good for them. But then you don't look at the defender and be like, oh, that's so embarrassing. But for ankle breakers, I feel like that's more how people look at it. So I'd rather be dunked on.
Okay, that's a fair point. Yeah, I think I'd rather get postered as well.
All right. So let's start going through this a little bit more quicker because I still do have a lot of questions left. Anyways, would you rather sit courtside and great experience, go through the courtside lounge, maybe meet some players, but see your team just get slapped, like blown out, 20-point loss, but still like an entertaining game for the most part, not a horrible game? Or would you rather see like the game of the year, a 30-point comeback and a buzzer-beating game winner, but you're at the top of the stadium?
I think I'd rather sit courtside because that. I think that's that's more of an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Like for most people, unless like money is no object, like you probably will never get to sit courtside, right?
Well, I have done both of those. Well, except the crazy 30-point comeback that I was at.
Yeah, you went to that Mavericks game.
And I've been courtside. I mean, yeah, if I could go again, I mean, like the Mavericks game, yeah, 30-point comeback, crazy game. Probably one of the best games of the entire regular season. I wasn't at the top of the stadium. I was the 6th row, so that was a great game. So I'd probably say courtside. I have been technically courtside before, 2nd row, 1st row, 905 game, whatever, and it's a great experience. So I'd probably say courtside again. But seeing those games is super fun. But at the top of the stadium, you might as well just be sitting on your couch, and then you don't have to pay $40 for some popcorn.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But then, the energy in the building is different. But I mean,
yeah, it is true.
Sitting courtside is like a once in a lifetime thing. Like that, like I would pay really, really. I guess you do have to pay a lot of money. I really would want to sit courtside. When I went to the Kings game last year, I got to sit in like the 7th row, and like from that distance, you can hear what the players are saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool. So I think I would probably take sitting courtside.
Yep. Even if it was a loss. All right. So you can head to your fourth question.
All right. So, would you rather build around Devin Booker or Donovan Mitchell?
That's tough, and I'm sad that Arnav's not here because obviously we know.
Well, we all know who Arnav would pick, but
True. But he would give a good argument.
would give a good argument.
I don't know yet.
So here's my thing with Donovan.
I want to pick Booker. Okay, let me say. I want to pick Booker, but I don't know. I think both of them are gonna have a good career, and honestly, at the end of the day, it's just kind of a guess for me. And I guess what
Kind of a toss-up.
who will be better. So I'm just gonna say Devin Booker. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
he is young in less seasons. I don't know if he's younger. I think they're the same age. So I'm gonna say Booker only because he is just been amazing. He was amazing.
He's just an amazing.
He's a crazy scorer
from all levels.
And building. Well, you said build around, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather build around him probably, but I think it's very, very close. And to all the Donovan Mitchell fans, I don't know if Arnav is watching this back. I do love him, and I think either one would be a good choice. But I'm just gonna say Booker's got the edge for me right now.
So here's my thing with Donovan Mitchell. So I thought that his ceiling, like this year, he was sort of close to his ceiling because I actually expected. I was sort of disappointed in it. I was sort of disappointed in him the last 2 years because he had such an amazing rookie campaign, and then his second year was kind of
Basically
more
the same.
Basically the same, just a little more points but with less efficiency. And this year was just a little bit better, but I guess that little bit was enough to be an all-star. But I thought at this point that he was sort of I thought he was sort of close to capped. I thought he would be a 26-6-6 guy. But I think, and this might be jumping the gun a little, that after watching him drop 57 points, I did not think that he was capable of turning on to that level. Because getting that many points in a single game, that takes a special breed of player to just carry like that. So I actually think his ceiling is much higher now. It's weird because Booker played so well and the Suns just barely missed the playoffs. To be fair, it's not like they had the hardest schedule. A lot of the teams they were playing were throwing out bad lineups, but they still played well, and you play who's in front of you at the end of the day, and they went 8-0 for God's sake. But it's close. I think Booker is a better scorer, and I think Mitchell will be a better defender and a better playmaker. But I feel like it would be easier to build around Devin Booker's skill set because he's a better scorer. Like, you can find solid defensive wings to put around him. What the Suns actually have around him right now is actually really good. I actually think building around Devin Booker would be very similar to building around Luka. Just obviously Booker is a good bit less talented and a worse playmaker. Like, you need a secondary playmaker next to Booker. Booker would be the secondary playmaker. You need another playmaker next to him. And having, I think, a second star, like, for example, they have DeAndre Ayton, and the Mavericks have Kristaps Porzingis to Luka Doncic. But I think I'll pick Booker. But there's no reason, like, picking Donovan Mitchell would be a bad choice by any stretch. I would disagree, but I think Booker. I think it's really close.
So moving on to my fifth. I'm not going to do all 10. I'm just going to go up to 8, I think, because I don't want to make it too long of an episode. Anyway, so number 5. Number 6. I'm going to skip 5 because it was a bad question in my opinion. It was better last week, but I'm not going to do it. Anyways, would you rather airball a 3-point shot or miss a layup?
Well, that depends. Like, certain layups have different value. Like, I think if you miss a important layup, then obviously I think that's bigger. Like, if you airball a 3-point shot, I don't think that's like something people will remember unless it's like Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Like, it's like it kind of deflates everything, right? Like, if you airball, if you miss a layup, like for example, Brandon Knight against the Nets got the steal, had a
Yeah,
wide
people
open
remember that.
people remember that. But like if Brandon Knight pulled up from 3 and airballed, like it would deflate everything. People would,
True. So
you know,
here's my opinion. If it's like I'm just saying like an end of a game scenario, I'd probably rather airball the three. But if it's like just like in the game, I would rather miss a layup because there's always a chance you getting the rebound and like putting it back up and in and redeeming yourself. But if you airball three, almost 100% of the time it's a turnover.
right. Okay.
So that was my opinion. That's what I thought going in. But you did make a good point at the end of the game. So if it's like a shot like that, yeah, I'd rather the three. But if just in the middle of a game, I would rather take the layup.
Okay. I see what you mean.
So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think in most scenarios I'd rather airball. I'd rather miss a layup because it's really not that big of a deal. I mean, like
Happens to
sometimes you just
everyone.
don't. Yeah, it happens to everyone, right?
Mhm.
But like airballing yeah, no, I think I'd rather miss a layup.
All right. So moving on to your next question.
So, would you rather be on a cursed franchise for half your career, or for the first like 7 or 8 years of your career, be on a team that's just horribly managed and
Mhm.
like just makes no strides? So, would you rather be on a team that just like, for example, the Clippers in the 2000s, right? Like
Yeah.
they start by missing on Hall of Famers and drafting Oloa Candy, but then also all their good players either leave in free agency and then they draft guys like Aaron Gordon. They trade for Chris Paul and then they build the Lob City Clippers and that blows up because of injuries. Would you rather basically? I guess you could take this from the perspective of fan. Would you rather be a fan of the Clippers or a fan of a team such as the Knicks? Because the Clippers right now, obviously, you'd rather be a Clippers fan, but the Clippers were up until probably the last 5 years, were probably the most cursed team in sports history. Mike Korzamba did a video on this, and it's like 20 minutes long of just it's so depressing. Like 9 career-ending injuries to 9 of their best players in the span of like 20 years, which
Mhm.
is just nuts.
Yeah.
And
So for me, I honestly would rather be the Clippers, even though like you're saying this, just because like they were still entertaining basketball teams at the end of the day. In the like Lob City Clippers, obviously they still competed. They made the playoffs most seasons. They had great games. Even like obviously through COVID, they've been replaying a lot of the games. I've been watching a lot of them. And yeah, so I'm gonna go with them. But yeah. So I'm going with the Clippers.
okay. I mean, the Knicks, to be fair, like with a cursed team like the Clippers, like they made lots of changes, but they just could, like, no matter what they did, it never worked. But with the Knicks, like eventually we know that James Dolan will go away. Like eventually. Like eventually he'll either die because he's 75 or he'll sell the team and do the right thing and spare Knicks fans. But yeah, no, I think I'd still be a Clippers fan just because you're cursed. Technically, maybe the curse doesn't exist and they're just really unlucky. But I mean, come on, Danny Manning, hurts. Marquise Johnson hurts.
Yeah, unlucky, curse, same thing.
All like three, like they're like the 1980, like for a stretch of 15 years, I believe from 1977 to like 1992, they missed the playoffs every year.
Mm-hmm.
Really depressing. But I think it'd still be a team or a fan of them because I mean
They were just more entertaining.
they weren't necessarily always bad. They were just really unfortunate.
Yeah, so I think we should do 2 more questions each and then wrap it up.
Okay.
Anyways,
Fair point.
so for my second last question, it is: would you rather have Joel Embiid or Karl Anthony Towns?
Ooh, okay. So I think that there's no reason that Karl Anthony Towns can't be the best center in the NBA, and I actually think that he's better than Joel Embiid, and he's better than Nikola Jokic. I also don't see
I
it
agree, but I'm maybe not Jokic, but definitely Embiid. So
because
I would rather. For me, that's not even that big of a question.
if we're ranking the top 3 centers in the league, I still have him third because Embiid and Jokic
Proven more.
are on. Yeah, they've proven more and they're on better teams.
Hmm.
But Cat is a better shooter than both of them. He's if anything one of the best shooters in the league as a big man. He shoots like 8 threes a game, which is not just elite, but that is amazing. He also he's a really strong post player. And well, yeah, that picture of Boogie Cousins where he's backing him down and Boogie is just being casual is really funny. And that's a testament. That's just a really funny outlook on the Cat Butler days. I still think Cat could be on a winning team easily the best center in the NBA, by far.
Yeah.
Like, I predicted this year he would average 30 points a game. He didn't quite do that, even though at the start of the year he was. And I stand by that, and I actually think next year he will average 28 to 30 points a game.
So
I think
I think that. I think
yeah,
that's
I
right.
think Cat definitely.
All right. So moving on to your second last question.
Okay, so would you rather build around Trae Young or Ja Morant?
Trae Young, and I'm gonna tell you why. I think Trae Young is at less of a risk to get injured. I think his game perfectly matches the modern era, like Curry. I think they can put good players around him, and I just think he's going to be good. I think Ja Morant is going to be amazing too, but I think he's at more of a risk to have a crazy injury that's really going to affect him, sort of like a Derrick Rose, which is hard to say because I want him to be good. He's an entertaining player, but without injuries, I'd probably take Ja, but I think it would still be close. But with injuries and it's likely to happen, I'm going to take Trae Young.
Okay. So here's my thing. I think Ja Morant probably is more capable of carrying a bad team than Trae Young is. I think the problem with Trae Young is he's obviously not a good defender, but I don't think that's a valid criticism because in the modern NBA, your superstar no longer needs to be a really good defender. That's not.
They just need to be average or close to average.
Yeah, if they can be like average, like Steph Curry is not a very good defender. He's a 2-time MVP and a 3-time champion. So clearly you don't need to be an amazing defender. Like obviously it helps to be good at defense, but like Trae Young is limited obviously by his size and weight, and that's pretty much his only hindrance. He's also just doesn't have a very high basketball IQ our defensive IQ. But that is something that can be built around better. But I think it's close because Trae is probably going to be the better offensive player. He's by far going to be a better shooter. People think Ja Morant's a good shooter because he shot a solid percentage this year. He shot like 36% from 3, but that was only on 2 attempts a game, which is average. Like that's like if you shoot a good percentage, but you don't shoot you shoot a low volume of shots, I would say you're average at best. So I think right now there's no reason he can't be a better shooter, and I think that'll be something that he improves on. But while the injury risk is a real thing, he's not a very heavy player, and he doesn't put a lot of pressure on his knees, like with his weight. Like the difference between him and Zion is Zion jumps super high at 285, but Ja Morant is barely 200 pounds, right? He doesn't put a ton of pressure on his knees. And I don't think it's out of the question that he gets hurt, but I don't think it's so likely that I don't think it's like Derrick Rose. Like Derrick Rose had a lot more pressure on his knees
I guess.
that he was putting on them every
But
night.
if you look at the way he lands on one leg.
That is a fair point. But I hope he doesn't get hurt.
Yes, me too. I'm not saying like I want him to get hurt. I mean, to prove my point
I
right
think
wouldn't be the worst thing, but obviously I want him.
I'm gonna be honest. I think that I would probably pick Ja because I think Trae Young. If not, I think there's a lot more room for error, margin for error if you build around a team with Ja because he's more versatile. He can do more. He's better at attacking the rim. He's more athletic. He's probably a better playmaker, better defender, but that's obviously not that important. And I think his shooting can become at least good. So I think I would take Ja, but it's close.
Yeah. All right.
But
So-
it's really a toss-up.
Yeah, I agree. Just like Donovan Mitchell. Okay, so for my last question, would you rather break Kawhi's ankles or dunk on Rudy Gobert?
Ooh. No, this is easy. This is actually easy. Break Kawhi's ankles, and it's not even close.
For me, it's not close, but I disagree.
Okay.
Because just because you break Kawhi's ankles doesn't mean you hit the shot. So it doesn't mean it goes viral. Doesn't mean it matters. So no. Dunking on Gobert would go viral, especially if it's crazy. Maybe you can do
No. Here's where I disagree with you. Because everyone and their sisters and brothers in the NBA, I don't think there's a player in the NBA, I'm not even kidding, that has been dunked on more than Rudy Gobert. Like, lots of players have
I don't know if
challenged.
that's true.
Yeah, he gets dunked on a lot, right? And it's really not that crazy because it's kind of a common occurrence. Lots of people dunk on Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert gets put through the spin cycle a hell of a lot, mostly because he's like arguably the best.
I wouldn't say he's been dunked on a lot. It's just that when he is dunked on, it goes viral. So you
No,
see.
he has been dunked on a lot. He has been dunked on a lot.
I don't even think he's been dunked on more than 3 times this season.
Getting dunked on 3 times is a fair bit.
I don't even remember one.
Okay, fine, but yeah, I think I'd rather break Kawhi's ankle.
All right. I mean, it's kind of like an ego thing as
Like
well.
how rare is that's rare?
No, but but it doesn't mean you make the shot.
Well, I mean, there's a good chance you do, because he probably falls down. You either get a lane, or you can just pull up and knock it down.
All right. Agree to disagree.
Okay, fine.
Okay, and our last would you rather question of today's episode.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. So, would you rather build around Luka or Giannis right now?
Giannis. Right now, Giannis.
Okay.
Because we know Luka is going to be good, but we know what Giannis is. We can get, because think about it. Giannis, he'll do so much. All you have to do is have good people around him. Not amazing, not superstars, because we've seen it with the Bucks, and you can win.
Well,
Right?
here's the thing, right? The Bucks, if this doesn't work this season, then I'm convinced this team is capped. Like, if they don't make the finals this season, then it's over, right? They didn't ultimately even make a finals with Giannis. So, your point that they can win without superstars is sort of true. Like, yeah, they can win, but they can't ultimately.
Yeah, but I think it depends who you are, right? You could put like with Luka. If Luka's the only superstar, I don't know if you're winning. Like, obviously, I love Luka. I think it's very close. I think either team's going to be very good, especially with the Mavericks. But I think it would be easier to build a better team around Giannis. I think overall you could build a better team with Luka because of his playmaking ability and need to be like that. But I think it would be easier to create a good team, if you know what I mean.
I don't think anyone will argue with you if you say that both Giannis and Luka have the potential to be top 5 players of all time and even top 3 players of all time.
Maybe.
Like, let's think about this, right? Like, so Giannis is already a top 50 player of all time, in my opinion. He's going to be a 2-time MVP. He's already a 30-point per game scorer. He's an amazing passer. We've never seen a player like him. So, like, what's stopping him? What is stopping Giannis from being the best player in the world? Because the Bucks could win a championship this year, and that would help his case. If they win this year, they will be contenders next year. And if he doesn't win this year,
He might leave.
he might leave. But if he does, he could go to a contender.
Like Toronto.
He could go to Toronto. He could even
He
go
could
to Golden State.
He could go to
He could
Miami.
go anywhere. There's really no bounds to where he can or can't
I mean,
go.
salary cap, but yeah.
Obviously salary, but like I don't think any team is going to be like, shoot, we've got to pay the next Chandler Parsons, so we can't sign Giannis.
Yeah.
I think. Wait, so your answer was Giannis, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be easier, but I think either one would be very good.
So I think that I think Luka is arguably the most talented player in the NBA right now. Like, his ability to create shots, his vision, his ability to finish is unmatched by anyone at his heights and position, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But Giannis is the most dominant player in the NBA right now. And this brings up the question of skill versus dominance, right? Is James Harden better than Shaq? No, but is James Harden more skilled? Hell yeah, right? So what would you rather have? I think I'd rather have a dominant player, but I think Giannis, I think you can put a cap on Giannis. I think, like, where he is right now is close to his ceiling, like very, very close to his ceiling. He's going to become a better shooter, but I feel like people overrate how much the shooting will help him, because you don't want Giannis taking half his shots from three right now, right? Like, even if, like, they go in at a league average percentage, you'd rather him get to the rim because that's just easier and more efficient. So I think I'd rather build around Luka because I think he'll be better. But it's really close.
Yeah, it's very close. All right, so wrap it up.
That's gonna do it for today.
All right, so thank you for watching.
With no Nav.
No, Nav will be back.
Nav will be back, and we will do a mock draft. We're gonna make sure that's a good episode. I'm gonna send the boys some film to review for all the prospects so that they can actually make decisions and talk about them rather than being like, oh, Wiseman's good. But you get it. So that's going to be a good episode. I'm really excited to do that.
Should be good.
I guess we will see you guys next time on 3 in the Key.